They are the heartbeat of the American West. Shadows racing across red earth and golden grass, their manes caught in the breath of the wind. Wild horses, the living spirit of freedom itself. Before fences carved the land, before highways silenced the song of the plains, they ruled these horizons. Born from ancestors that vanished and returned through human hands, the wild horse is not just a survivor, it is a resurrection. Each herd tells a story written in dust and endurance, of migration, of courage, of memory older than time. They move like rivers of muscle and will, bound by instinct, loyalty, and the unspoken wisdom of the herd. No reins, no masters, only the open land and the eternal promise of freedom. But behind their beauty lies a fragile truth. Their world is shrinking. Their freedom, once limitless, now struggles beneath the weight of fences, drought, and human indifference. And yet, they keep running. Across Nevada's vast deserts, Wyoming's endless plains, and Montana's rolling hills, the wild horse continues to defy extinction, a flicker of untamed life against the modern world's fading horizon. They are more than creatures of grace. They are mirrors of who we once were. Raw, resilient, free. This is not just a story about horses. It's the story of America's untamed soul. Still galloping, still fighting, still alive. This is the story of the wild horses of America. Long before the first cowboy saddled up, before settlers crossed the open frontier, horses roamed this land, free and wild. But their story begins far earlier, deep in the prehistoric heart of North America. It was here, millions of years ago, that the first horses evolved, small, delicate creatures no larger than a fox, wandering through lush forests and wetlands. Over time, they changed with the land, growing stronger, faster, more resilient, perfecting the art of survival. But then, something incredible happened. They vanished. Around 10,000 years ago, wild horses disappeared from this continent, victims of an ice age and shifting climates. Their hoofprints faded, their echoes silenced. And yet, destiny wasn't done with them. Centuries later, explorers from across the ocean, the Spanish conquistadors, brought horses back to the very land of their birth. What began as war mounts and work animals soon broke free, finding themselves once again in the open wild. There, under the blazing sun and starlit skies, they remembered what it meant to be free. They multiplied, adapted, and reclaimed the spirit of their ancestors. From the deserts of New Mexico to the grasslands of Montana, they became the Mustangs, fierce, independent, untamed. Each herd carried ancient whispers in its blood, the memory of a home lost and rediscovered. These were no ordinary animals. They were time travelers, born of stone and memory, reborn in dust and wind. The wild horses of America didn't just return, they came home. When the Mustang returned to America, it didn't just run. It transformed the landscape and the people who shared it. To the native tribes of the Great Plains, the Mustang was more than an animal, it was freedom itself. The horse reshaped entire cultures. Once, journeys across the plains took weeks. With horses, they took hours. The buffalo hunt became an art of speed and precision. Warriors and scouts rode as one with their mounts, bound by trust and spirit. The horse turned survival into grace, and struggle into strength. But the Mustang's legacy wasn't just about speed or battle. It was about resilience. These animals endured blazing heat, brutal winters, and scarce water, yet they thrived. They became symbols of endurance, living reminders that life finds a way even in the harshest lands. Over centuries, their story intertwined with the American dream. Ranchers, explorers, outlaws, and dreamers all found their reflection in the wild horse. Each Mustang carried the fire of the frontier, the untamed heart of the land itself. But as the world modernized, the wild began to shrink. Fences went up, engines replaced hooves, and the Mustang, the icon of freedom, found itself fighting for its own survival once again. Still, even now, if you listen closely in the deserts of Nevada or the valleys of Wyoming, you can hear it, the thunder of hooves, the whisper of dust. A living legend, still running. For centuries, wild horses roamed freely, unclaimed, unconfined, untamed. But the modern age changed everything. The open plains that once stretched endlessly have grown smaller, fenced, and fragmented. The Mustang now stands at the crossroads of survival and human expansion. Ranchers see them as competition for scarce grazing lands. Developers see them as obstacles to progress. And governments, caught in the middle, attempt to balance ecology, economy, and emotion. Roundups, once unthinkable, became routine. Helicopters chase herds across the desert, dust clouds rising as panicked horses flee. Some are captured, adopted, or sent to sanctuaries, while others vanish into uncertainty. But not all humans see the Mustang as a problem. Across the nation, conservationists and horse lovers fight to preserve these wild herds, to protect not just an animal, but a legacy. Each horse represents a living link to the untamed spirit of the land. And yet, the question lingers, can wildness survive in a world that seeks to control everything? Climate change, drought, and habitat loss threaten what remains of their fragile freedom. In some regions, herds wander farther than ever in search of water. Foals weaken. Stallions fight harder for shrinking space. Still, they endure. Because in every Mustang's heart beats the pulse of survival. A rhythm older than fences, older than fear. The struggle of the modern Mustang isn't just about land. It's about identity, a battle between what we protect and what we're willing to lose. Amid the conflict and controversy surrounding wild horses, a quiet army has risen. People who refuse to let the Mustang's story end. They are the guardians of the wild, volunteers, scientists, ranchers, and filmmakers united by one belief: that freedom has a right to exist. These guardians track herds across remote valleys, monitoring health, genetics, and migration. They dart through storms to deliver water, build sustainable fencing, and develop humane management plans. Some even use drones and GPS collars, modern tools in an ancient fight, to help horses roam safely without overpopulating fragile lands. But not all guardians ride in trucks or carry equipment. Some work with paintbrushes, cameras, and pens, capturing the beauty of the Mustang to stir hearts worldwide. Their art and advocacy remind us that the horse isn't just an animal. It's an emblem of wild spirit, a reflection of who we are when we live untamed. Every hoofbeat echoes with responsibility, ours. Because these herds can't speak for themselves. Across the West, sanctuaries and rewilding projects are proving a simple truth: coexistence is possible. With compassion and balance, humans and horses can share the same earth without dominance or destruction. The guardians don't protect horses because it's easy. They do it because it's right. Because some things in this world deserve to stay wild. The story of the American wild horse is not one of defeat. It's a story of endurance. No matter how many centuries have passed, no matter how the world has changed, their spirit remains unbroken. From the scorching deserts of Nevada to the snow-lined valleys of Wyoming, wild horses still run. Their manes tangled by wind, their eyes reflecting the horizon. Each herd carries a legacy older than memory, a lineage born from survival and freedom. They've outlasted wars, weather, and human ambition. When fences went up, they found new paths. When droughts came, they dug for water. When chased, they ran, not in fear, but in defiance. Because the Mustang doesn't simply exist in the wild, it is the wild. They remind us of something we often forget: that true strength doesn't roar, it runs quietly in the heart of the untamed. Their courage, their loyalty, their endurance, these are not just equine traits, but reflections of the same spirit that built this land. A reminder that freedom isn't a gift, it's something you fight to keep. As long as there is open sky and earth beneath their feet. As long as one herd still runs beneath the sun. The wild heart of America will continue to beat. Because legends don't fade. They just keep running. As the sun dips below the horizon and the land turns gold, the silhouettes of wild horses trace the final light. A timeless image, unchanged for generations. The Mustangs of America are more than living relics. They are the spirit of the land itself. Every hoofbeat tells a story of evolution, endurance, and the eternal pull of freedom. From ancient ancestors who roamed millions of years ago to the modern herds that still thunder across open deserts, Their journey mirrors our own. A struggle between civilization and wildness, control and chaos, heart and horizon. And as we look toward the future, one truth becomes clear. The fate of the wild horse is tied to our own. If they vanish, we lose not only a species, but a piece of our soul, that restless, fearless part of humanity that dares to live unbridled. It's up to us, the watchers, the dreamers, the guardians, to protect their freedom, to keep their story alive for the generations who will one day stand beneath these same skies. Because when we fight for the wild horse, we fight for something greater. For balance, for beauty, for the soul of the open land itself. The wild horses of America still run. And as long as they do, the West will never truly be tamed.